ITC Hotels is opening its first property in Nepal through its subsidiary Fortune Hotels. Now, as far as overall expansion in the international markets is concerned, this is the second destination after Sri Lanka where ITC Hotels is eyeing its presence. I'm joined by Samir MC, who is the managing director of Fortune Hotels, to discuss more. Thank you, Samir, for taking the time. I would begin by asking how big is the facility in Nepal and what is the potential in the Nepal market?
So, good afternoon. Firstly, thank you for having me over. I think it's indeed a pleasure to be having this interaction with you as we open our first property in Nepal with the Fortune brand. It's being called the Fortune Resort and Wellness Spa, Bhaktapur. It's a beautiful resort spread over just under 5 acres on a beautiful hill in Bhaktapur. And it's got 66 rooms to begin with. Of course, at a later stage, we will be evaluating some more addition of rooms. It is a full services, full facility hotel. It's got a beautiful restaurant called Rainbow, which is an all-vegetarian restaurant, and a bar, Neptune, and extensive banqueting facilities. This resort is located right next to the Kailash Mahadev Shiva statue, which happens to be the second tallest statue in the world for Lord Shiva. It's a 144 feet high Shiva statue. So guests staying with us would also get the great opportunity to just walk down the resort and see this beautiful statue.
Oh, that's beautiful. So how much investments have gone into this property? Can you share some light?
So as these are under management contracts with local investors in Nepal, the investments have been done by our partners, and of course we have shared our resources and time and knowledge of building the project with them to get this beautiful hotel up into.
All right. Beyond Nepal, is there any other market that you are exploring in the international, overseas market?
As you heard, we just recently launched our first international property with the ITC Hotels, which is the ITC Ratnadeepa Colombo, a beautiful luxury property which will probably redefine luxury hospitality in Sri Lanka. Very proud to bring in the next property in our international space. Of course, as we continue growing in India, and we've got a very good pace of growth in India in our space, we are also looking at proximal markets. So the areas where we would like to look at is basically proximal markets where Indian hotel companies and Indian hotel brands have a fairly good reputation to begin with.
Right. Mr. Puri has actually indicated that there are plans to enter Middle East. So is there something that you are exploring? Like, could you throw some hints?
So we continue exploring multiple locations.
Okay.
And I would say that as we get closer to formalizing some of those arrangements, we'd be happy to share that with you. Yes.
All right. So coming back to the domestic market, temple towns are emerging as the next travel hotspots. What is your view on the, what is the share of hotels that you have between spiritual and leisure segments? And also, do you see spiritual segment being the next growth driver for Fortune?
Spiritual travel and pilgrimage tourism has always been a big thing for Indian domestic traveler. It will continue growing for sure. Of course, in the recent past, we've been hearing a lot specifically about one location, which is Ayodhya, which has brought in a lot of focus and attention. We have already got one property coming up in Ayodhya. But having said that, we have always been present in spiritual markets, whether it is Tirupati, where we have a wonderful Fortune, or it's Ma Vaishno Devi and Katra, where we have 2 properties between Welcome Hotel and Fortune. Amritsar, of course, is another city where we have 3 hotels across multiple brands. In fact, one of them being just 500 meters away from the Golden Temple, the Fortune Heritage Walk in Amritsar. And of course, locations like Madurai and many other pilgrim locations where we are either already present or coming up with properties in the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay. Samir, India is also emerging as a middle-income economy from a low-income economy, and there is a shift in terms of consumer preferences they are spending on discretionary. So I would actually like to understand your expansion plans for FY25, like how many hotel pipeline, what is the pipeline and new signings and agreements that you have?
So in the current financial year, or the new financial year, we are looking at opening 10 new hotels across various locations in India. We've already had a great financial year which just went by. We signed 12 agreements across various locations. We opened 8 new hotels. So well on track with our growth strategy.
Okay, but is there a supply gap that you see as far as the overall industry is concerned?
Well, over the last couple of years, as India in general has rebounded from the pandemic, what we have noticed is that there is definitely an increase in travel, both business and leisure travel. We do see that across tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 markets. It's pretty easy to see how flights are going full, airports are busy, plus really good connectivity in terms of roads and trains. So that's all helping travel in general, both from a business and leisure perspective. And I would think that's adding on to the demand. If I look at the last 1 year and probably the next 2 years coming up ahead of us, what do we notice is that the demand increase will continue to outshine over supply increase. So definitely there's going to be good demand compared to supply.
Okay, but how do you project the demand growth? Like, is there a number in mind? How much growth can we expect the industry?
See, India is as a market still in the low 70s in terms of occupancies, and as we mature, many of our markets are hitting 80% plus. So I think that trend will continue helping us. Apart from that, we are also seeing a lot of tier 2 and tier 3 cities which are growing, which potentially did not have good branded hotels. And operators like us are sort of willing to go into those locations. We have always been one of the front runners in going into tier 2, tier 3 markets. We opened a hotel in a location like Vapi 20 years back, and we continue opening hotels in tier 2, tier 3 locations. Okay. And that's going to add to the demand.
Okay, and how is the trend in terms of average room rates looking like?
So look, room rates is a function of demand and supply, right? And of course, based on multiple other factors like location and the willingness to pay. What I would say is, if I take a step back, I would look at India being a market which is still much lower on average room rates compared to many other mature markets. So I think there is definitely an opportunity for room rates to go up, and hotels will continue looking at how room rates can be sort of yielded to the best possible value. Of course, making sure that guests who stay with us continue getting the right value for what they pay.
Okay, Samir, you did mention that business travel is actually increasing, but has it gone back to pre-COVID numbers yet? Because the last time we interacted with several other companies, they were mentioning that it has not. So how do you see the scenario?
So it's a mix across multiple locations, but largely business travel has gone back to those numbers in many locations. Of course, it is also fueled by the fact that over the last 2 years, we are seeing a lot of traction in terms of demand generators. So whether it was the G20 summit, which was across many locations in the country over 8-9 months, followed by the Cricket World Cup, followed by many other events like that, which sort of grew demand, and that's continuing to help us in the industry.
Okay, and because you mentioned cricket, I would like to ask about the IPL. How do you see the demand in during the match days?
Well, IPL continues to be a very interesting segment for cricket lovers, and I think across most locations where we have hotels, we continue seeing a good demand, especially on those match days. But that's just one of those events which are helping us as an industry. There is definitely a lot more opportunity to grow, and that's something which we are all looking forward to in a very excited way. Yes.
Okay, and if I have to ask you like 3 key factors that will drive demand in this year or 2-3 years, the next 2-3 years, what would that be?
I think the first one is the improvement in infrastructure. So as we have noticed over the last week or so, over the last decade or so, we have seen the number of airports doubling from 70 plus to 140 plus. And it seems India is well on track to hit a 200 airport number by 2030. And that's definitely going to be the first part in terms of infrastructure. The second is the rising middle class, which is coming up, and the propensity to travel is increasing in the middle class. So that's probably the second one. And the third one could be the change of demographic in terms of age. There are more people coming into the workforce between the age of 20 and 30. And over the next 10 years, they're going to continue increasing income. And we can see that consumer behavior has changed a lot, especially in that age group, where there is a lot of focus and attention on wanting to travel across the country. So those are probably the 3 key factors which I would say spur demand for us.
All right, Samir, thank you so much for talking to us at NDTV Profit.
Such a pleasure. Thank you to NDTV Profit for having me over. Thank you.